This is how long it takes to reinvent yourself as a man. See, my entire life I grew up a shy, insecure, introverted kid who struggled to get girls and be social and make friends, and I didn't have any of the results that I wanted out of life. And after I got into a relationship, mostly by luck at 19, and it quickly ended within 3 months and I was heartbroken, I changed myself down to my core, and I kind of say like that's when my new life began. For the last 4 years, I've been living a life that I could have only dreamed of when I was younger. And I'm going to be breaking down how I was able to make this identity shift into becoming the man that I wanted to be and really reinvent myself as a whole, changing limiting beliefs that had held me back for years. So I'm going to be breaking everything down in this video and showing you exactly how you can do the same thing for yourself. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to develop a why statement. Why are you even doing this in the first place? Why do you want to reinvent yourself? Why do you want to make an identity shift and become a better man? Because without this, you're not going to get anywhere, because you're never going to stay consistent enough when things get hard, when you have to sacrifice, when there's discipline, when there's hardship involved. You're not going to stick it through if you don't know why you're doing it in the first place. So if you don't have a strong enough why reason, you're never going to make this change. And that's the first thing that I really had for the first time in my life at the end of 19 when I got broken up with, was I had a million reasons why I wanted to make this change and become the best man and build my value and be someone who the world respected, who girls find attractive, who guys want to be friends with. And I wanted to develop social skills and confidence, and I wanted to do so many things. I had all the reasons in the world behind making this change because I was so fueled by heartbreak, by that pain within, and all the pain of just being mediocre for the first 19 years of my life, that I truly wanted to change and become better. So I had so many why reasons at that stage to make this change, and that's what led to the success, was having all those why reasons. And now this stuff can come from pain from the past, and that's usually where it comes from. Is, you go through things, you're just accumulating all this pain of not being good enough, having a bad experience, and eventually it triggers one bad event which completely makes you change. Or you could also view it in many different perspectives in terms of the pain of missing out on things in the future. If you look at in terms of the missed opportunities that you're going to have, there's so many ways that you can turn it into something painful to motivate you to stay consistent with it. But you really just need to figure out and formulate your why statement, however it works for you. That's the most important thing. And now, the reason that I'm at this point talking to you guys on camera, able to teach you guys everything that I know and make money from all my knowledge and all my life experiences, because I started to build my value at 19. So what I did was I built every single one of you a high value man guide, and this is going to allow you to piece together the identity shift and the way that you want to reinvent yourself and how to build yourself as a man across the board. This is very useful, and it's going to help you massively in your journey as it did for me. So I'm going to be giving that to you completely for free. It's the first thing in the description below. And this is the second thing that goes into making an identity shift and reinventing yourself as a man, which is insane levels of discipline. This is a non-negotiable. If you do not have discipline right now, you are fucked, because you're never going to be able to make the changes that you need to make, because it takes tons and tons of discipline to change yourself at your core. As already mentioned before, you have all your habitual thought processes, the habits that you do, your actions on a daily basis that you're so used to doing, and they're so within your comfort zone. And when you want to change those things and become a new person, everything has to change, starting with your thought process. And it's very difficult to start having tons and tons of control over your thoughts and your actions that you have on a consistent basis. The little minuscule things all add up. And that's where the insane levels of discipline come into really shifting yourself to being a completely different person. And now, to answer the question of how long this would take realistically, to answer the title, it depends. That's really the thing. It depends on how committed you are. Because when I went all in, I made this shift within about, I would say, 2 months is when I started to really adapt the shift, and by 3 months it was cemented into me, and I've been operating with it on automatic ever since. So within 3 months' time, I made a true identity shift and completely reinvented myself, changed my thought process, changed my worldviews, removed my limiting beliefs, and started to live the life that I always wanted to live. Now, there was a lot of little things in the works that I needed to improve on in the process. Everything didn't just fall into my lap, but I started to get very close to just a great foundational version of myself that was able to slowly start chipping away at the little things that I wanted to improve on, like being more charming and charismatic, just all the little things I needed to do, like learning sales so I could take on sales jobs and make money. But I had a good foundation for it, whereas I had a terrible foundation for it in the past. And the way that my mind was extremely dialed in for the first time in my life. I'd never experienced anything like this. It was one of the coolest things that I've ever done. And if you haven't experienced it, it's almost magical in terms of the changes that you can make. So now going back to discipline. How does discipline tie into this? So you need to see the version of yourself that you want to be, how this person acts, how this person talks, how they think, how they move through the world. And you need to start doing those things. You need to make this all very conscious. You need to write it all out. And then you need to start acting on that. So you need to think, how would the version of myself that I want to be act in this situation? And then you need to start doing that consistently. You need to really shift your character as a whole, how you act and behave. So you need to be very conscious of what you're currently doing, how you're currently thinking, and then what is the shift that you want to make. And that's where insane levels of discipline comes in. And the beautiful thing is that discipline is a skill. So the more disciplined that you are in other areas of your life, the easier it's going to be to make an identity shift and reinvent yourself. So one of the things that I started doing at that time that was massive in terms of making these shifts is I started to read, meditate, and gratitude journal and reflective journal every single day. And that was absolutely essential to this transformation. Without it, I don't think I would be here today. So let me break down why those things are massively impactful. First of all, reading. This is where I got all my knowledge from. I only read self-improvement books. So all the knowledge that I get from those books, I'm immediately implementing, executing on, testing out, learning about, and then reflecting on in my journal after I've applied them and seen how these things actually work out in real life, and then making the changes to my character as I go along. So that's absolutely essential. You need to be getting new information, you need to be executing on it and applying it to your life. Now, the second thing is meditation. Meditation is probably one of the most important things that you can do. A lot of people don't understand the true value of it. They think that you're going to reach spiritual enlightenment and you're going to have this great feeling. It's not about that at all. All it's about is developing higher levels of awareness. Awareness is what is going to allow you to make these shifts, because in your daily life, you're operating on automatic, right? You're going through with your same habitual thought process, but when you have high levels of awareness, you're able to monitor your thought process and think, okay, well, this is not in alignment with the new version of myself that I want to be. I need to change this way of thinking and adopt the new way of thinking. I need to change this limiting belief and drop it on its head because it's not serving me. These are all the things that you need to do. You have to be very conscious over your mind, and you're not going to be able to develop that level of awareness if you're not meditating. And it's really helping you to strengthen your prefrontal cortex, which is going to help you make a lot of these changes as well, which ties into that awareness. So that's really the key with meditation, is how this all works. It's this thing that you're kind of investing into to be able to make these changes. Because the meditation itself can be kind of boring sometimes. You're just lying there, focusing on your breath, always returning to it anytime you get distracted. But that's the value in it, is that you're training your mind to be able to consciously gain focus and stay present throughout the entire day, which is super valuable. And now going on to journaling. Gratitude journaling is very good for just being more optimistic, positive. And when you're trying to make any shift, it's going to be hard. So the more positive you can be, the more that you can see the benefits of the things that you're doing, the more that you can look at something and say, oh, I'm noticing the slightest bit of improvement. I'm so grateful for improving just the slightest bit. The more likely you're able to make that transformation. And it's just good overall. No one's ever been harmed by being grateful. So that's something you should include. And then reflective journaling is where I've really allowed myself to analyze and break down different periods of my life or the things that I'm doing currently and kind of see how it all ties together. Once again, it develops higher levels of awareness, which is insanely valuable. It's going to just piece together everything for you and allow you to sort of integrate all the things you're doing between your reading, the changes you're trying to make to your character, the meditation that you're doing. It all ties together in terms of you becoming the man that you want to be and making this all possible. And that discipline that you do with those things ties over into the character changes like I mentioned before. So the more disciplined you are there doing those things consistently, the easier it's going to be to change your character. And on top of that, I would highly recommend just being more disciplined across the board. So if you're able to do cold showers, ice baths, if you're not already training in the gym, you should be training. That's going to help you with your mental health so much, release endorphins, make you feel great. All the things that you can do to be more disciplined will only help you. So never shy away from discipline. You need to lean into it if you want to make your character transformation and reinvent yourself as quickly as possible. And the last step that goes into reinventing yourself is the identity shift that gets cemented when you become that person. So for example, for the longest time, I struggled with online business. And finally, at 21 years old, I started my successful sales academy business that made me 8 to 15K per month. And from that point on, after I'd had that business for about 8 months making that much money, I saw myself as a 10K per month entrepreneur. So even after that business failed and I had a period where I wasn't making money, I was already on to the next business model, which I knew I was going to be successful in. And that also led me to get to around 10K per month once again within a very short time frame. So I see myself as a 10K per month entrepreneur 100%. And now I'm working on scaling that up to 20, 30, 50, 100K, and I will get there in time. And these are the challenges that I'm going through to change my identity and upgrade it to higher levels of income. But you can see how if you ask me, what sort of success do you have? Even if I wasn't making 10K per month, I'd say I'm a 10K per month entrepreneur. It's not lying. It's the identity that I've created for myself. So I felt within that even when I wasn't having the success from that phase between my previous business and the business I'm running now on YouTube, which you're watching, my coaching business on the back end, there was a phase where I was making no money, but I still felt like I was a successful entrepreneur. When I would walk into rooms, I felt like I was the entrepreneur person. I wasn't a fucking carpenter. Not saying there's anything wrong with carpenters, but I didn't see myself as that because that's not who I am. But in my core, I'm a 10K per month entrepreneur. I'm also a salesman. There's a lot of identities that I've been able to assume in my journey, but when I made that identity shift, it stuck with me. The identity shift that I made when I was 19 after that breakup was one of someone who is self-improvement oriented, who is highly disciplined. That has stuck with me ever since. And the way that someone speaks and communicates about themselves will tell you everything you need to know about their character and their identity, the way that they see themselves. So if someone says, yeah, I'm trying an online business, I know they're not fucking doing anything. They're gonna fail. But if they fucking say to me, I am a business owner, or I am the next 10K per month entrepreneur, it's a different story. And when someone just says, oh yeah, I am this person, this is who I am in my core, that's when you know the identity shift has been cemented. So it's not about trying, it's about being that person. Even if you didn't have the success yet, you need to adopt the thought process, the beliefs, the values of someone who has that sort of success, and you too will get it because there's nothing that you can't attain in this life. It's genuinely all for the taking. You can have anything that you want, but you have to be willing to put in the hard work, and this goes back into that. So this shift in character, this change of who you want to be can be for anything. It can be someone who, like my younger self, was shy and insecure and struggled with girls, and then developed confidence to be an outgoing, charismatic, fun, cool guy who gets with a lot of girls. That was one of the shifts I made. Another one was with learning sales. It kind of ties into that communication and social skills and charisma. But learning sales, being able to be a good salesman, was another identity shift. I used to not be able to say, I'm a good salesman. I was like, I'm trying at sales. I'm taking on a sales job. Now, even if I wasn't working a sales job, even if I wasn't making money, I would say I'm great at sales. I am a salesman. I'm a great salesman. And when you speak like this, it kind of just creates the winner's effect where people just start to believe in you because of the level of conviction that you carry. But that's a topic for another day. we're not trying to talk about influence and persuasion here, but you really need to just adopt the identity that you are going to work on. You need to adopt it. And once it becomes ingrained into you in your true depths of who you are as a person, that's when you know you've made the shift. So to answer the question of the YouTube video, how long does it take? It takes as long as it takes for you to make that true adoption of being that person on whatever it is that you are trying to attain. And once again, the High Value Man Guide is going to help you massively in making these changes in your life and building your value as a man. So it's completely for free. It's the first link in the description below.